Hey guys, we're back. I'm Michael Saley here, co-founder of BAONG, and we're a modern community on a mission to elevate the Mien people. We're back with another. This is our Mien Talk series, and it's designed to bring forth Mien professionals and Mien business owners in the community. Our goal here is to help share advice, knowledge, and things that you can use and apply in your life. So tonight, I'm super excited to welcome a published author, David Saechao, and he's going to be joining us here. So without further ado, David, welcome.
What's
Hi,
up,
David.
Michael? How's it going?
Awesome. Can you hear me? Is this okay?
Yeah, I can hear you okay.
Awesome. So we're having some people starting to join right now. Guys, if you're listening to us live and you're tuning in, please give us a like or drop us an emoji or tell us where you're listening from. We'd love to know. So David, please tell us a little bit about your background and what you've been up to.
Well, I as a profession, I'm an adult education teacher. I work out of Orland, California, in an adult school there. If you're not familiar with Orland, it's about like maybe 10 miles away from Rolling Hills Casino in Corning. I'm also the author of 3 books. I've written 2 children's books. The first one is The Legend of the Dog Warrior, and another book that I wrote is King Pan and the Golden Dragon. Both of those were illustrated by Calvin Sepan, who is out of Sacramento. On top of that, I also wrote From Mountains to Skyscrapers, The Journey of the Iu Mien.
Yes, and we do have those books, guys. They're available on Amazon, right? All available on Amazon?
Yeah, all 3 books are available on Amazon right now.
Awesome. This was your first book, right? From Mountains to Skyscrapers?
No, actually, the Legend of the Dog Warrior is the first one.
Oh, that's interesting.
Yeah, and then the second one is King Pan and the Golden Dragon. We've talked a little bit about doing a trilogy, but at the moment we just don't have enough time, to take on that. But sometime in the future, I think we're gonna wrap up that third one.
Right. And I think a lot of people are curious, how did you just go from, writer to becoming a published writer? I mean, did you have a background story leading up to that in your childhood, possibly?
Yeah, kind of. I've always liked language arts classes, going back to elementary school and secondary school. In high school, I think that's where I kind of laid some of the foundations for writing. But it wasn't really until I think probably like 2013 when I decided to take a class at our local college here, Shasta College. It was a class on creative writing and effective editing. So right after I completed that class, that's when I knew that I wanted to write something, whether a book or maybe write for an article, something like that. And so the first book, The Legend of the Dog Warrior, that idea actually kind of came about like when I was at a gathering. One of my buddies from my old neighborhood actually invited me over to a ritual meal, and I remember some of the elders talking about the Panhu Myth. But what kind of surprised me a little bit was that I think out of maybe the 10 or 12 elders that were there, maybe 2 or 3 of them knew about the myth. So I was just thinking, if so many elders didn't know about the Panhu Myth, then how many kids or grandkids didn't know about the myth either? And so that's when I kind of came up with the idea, hey, let's put something down, whether it's an actual nonfiction book or a children's book. So that's really, at that moment when I really decided, hey, I'm going to try and do this. But the first thing I had to do was, of course, find an illustrator. Luckily, I had a cousin in Sacramento that knew of an illustrator. I wanted to find a Mien illustrator, so I was really lucky to find Calvin Sepan. He was the one that did those, great drawings for both books. From there, I wanted to take on the bigger book, from mountains to skyscrapers. But I knew that was going to take a long time, so I had to kind of plan everything out a little bit.
For people who may not be familiar with the legend of the Panhu story, can you give like a quick summary?
Sure. I know we don't have that much time, but so the Panhu myth is really about, a court dog, a dog that lived in the court. The king at that time was, battling a rival. And so the king basically said, if anybody could help me defeat this rival, then you could marry one of my daughters or one of the princesses. So, he went about and brought back the head of the rival. And then from there, he was given land to the south and also married the princess. And then they ended up having 12 kids, 6 boys, 6 girls. And those 12 children are believed to be, the first clans of the Mien. Now, to be certain though, the Panhu myth is not just a Mien myth. There are other groups, like there's Hmong groups that also subscribe to the myth. There's also another ethnic group closely related to the Yao and the Mien. They're called the Shi. They're mostly concentrated in Southeast China. But yeah, that's just like a quick synopsis of the myth. And I really would encourage anybody that's interested in ancient Mien history to dig a little bit deeper into the Panhu myth, because it's the one direct line that connects us to our ancient ancestors. I would look into
that story alone is that's kind of like the origin Mien story, right? For a lot of things, where the 12 clans came from, where Mien people kind of originated. And that story, that's in China, right? When you did your research.
Well, that story, it's very complex, because first of all, like if you believe in the Panhu myth, during that time, we were probably more of like a proto-Southern tribe, that probably included some of the Hmong tribes that are still living there today. And so it's kind of like, I want to say it's like solely a Mien myth, but it's really not. But it's still something that's rather significant if you want to look into our ancient history, because if you think about it, that first recording of the myth, or let me correct that, or one of the first recordings of the myth took place around probably around like 400 AD. And one of the first historians to write it was Gan Bao, who lived during the Jin dynasty. So if you think about that for a second, that story was first written around that time, and it traveled, to northern Vietnam, Laos, Thailand, pretty much everywhere that we've been. And that's why I think it's so significant, like to really look at that myth if you want to research ancient Mien history.
I think that's definitely a really interesting story, and we have we won't go too deep into the historical part, guys, but if you're curious, the legend of the dog warrior, written by David Saechao, here joining us tonight. This kind of like illustrates that, and it's illustrated by Calvin Sapon, and this kind of talks a little bit about like the mythical story where Mien people come from. So that book is available. But thank you, Dave, for sharing that little insight with us. I think moving forward, we're just kind of keeping this going along because we're trying to keep the time limit.
Yeah, sure.
Let's think about like the book here with the other one, the one that you really put in a lot of time, right? With this one, what was that like with the research and what you did for it?
That one took me a little while. Thankfully, the first time I actually tried to really research Mien history, especially ancient Mien history, that was actually back in like 2001 or so, when I had to write a research paper. And I remember how hard it was. It was really difficult to find sources, information that I needed to write chapters on ancient Mien history. But that was like, almost 20 years ago. When I started writing this book, it was probably in about 2015 or so. There had already been a number of scholars, researchers, both from the West and from Asia. For example, in China, a group of Chinese and Yao scholars did a very thorough study on ancient Ming history. So I was able to really dig into that information. Also, there are a lot of, it's much easier to communicate with people now, especially with the internet and stuff like that. So I was able to do a lot of interviews over the phone, and just messaging older folks that I wanted to interview. So the research wasn't as difficult, but I think what kind of stalled me for a little bit is that before I finished the book, I needed to definitely go down. I needed to go visit the motherland. There's something about,
Right,
not
journey.
going there. Yeah, I didn't, I wanted to at least go there once so I can see what it was like, and maybe I don't know, maybe kind of experience like our motherland spiritually a little bit. But some of the challenges I ran into that book of course, like formatting it, rewriting it, editing it. I think I probably wrote like 20, 30 drafts of that book, before I actually finalized it. And even then, it wasn't perfect. There were definitely some flaws to that book. So
It's got a lot of great content here and a lot of photos too. I know that you talked about this, between you and me, that you had a lot of inspiration from one particular book, right? There was an author, I think, too, for that. I think it was what's it called From Broken Jar Mountain to
yeah,
San
from
Francisco.
Broken Jar Mountain to San Francisco. That's a book that was written by David Saechao out of Oakland. Her husband is actually Kaotziochao. If you know some of the leaders in the Bay Area. That book, I really encourage anybody that wants to, read about what daily life was like in Laos. I don't know if it's in print right now, but there are several Mien folks that actually have that book. I would grab it and read it because she's very thorough and detailed in what life was like in Laos, up in the mountains and in the villages. I don't think you can really find anything that goes into that great of detail as far as daily life there.
You mentioned that it was kind of difficult because what is it like for our parents to have water back then, right? Clean water.
Yeah. I was pretty. I thought it was pretty cool, to read that. A lot of families use bamboo pipes to kind of connect their homes to nearby rivers. They also stored a lot of water, during the rainy seasons. So that book, From Broken Jar Mountain to San Francisco, has a lot of that. It even talks a little bit about, what it was like when families grew opium and stuff like that, which was pretty cool, I thought.
Yeah, I think for a lot of our families, I know my grandparents grew opium. It was just a way of life, and no one really treated it like drugs. It was more like a cash crop, right? People grew it to make money, to make ends meet. And
Yeah, it was a rather normal thing. And then the thing with growing opium is that was one of the links that we had with some of those former nationalist soldiers from China. If you know a little bit about Chinese history, in 1949, Chairman Mao and the communists won, right? They won. But a lot of those soldiers that fought for the Kuomintang and the nationalists, they escaped. Some of them, most of them, of course, went to Taiwan, but a lot of them went into those mountains. Like in the northern Laos, Thailand, Burma, like that vicinity. A lot of them, settled there and became drug lords, and so we had a pretty good connection, and that actually is one of the reasons why we fought alongside the U.S. It's not the primary reason. There were a lot of other reasons as well, but we had already been allied with the U.S. through the Kuomintang and of course the French too. So
I think a lot of people most people I think don't even know about the Secret War, right? Most people know about Armenian history. Like outsiders. We know that our parents came here during the 1970s, but outsiders, non-Mian people, they don't know about the secret war that really happened. And I think that's a
Yeah,
really, really interesting thing. And it's not even in the history books. So,
yeah. I mean, there's not really much about it. I mean, like if you picked up a U.S. history book, you might find a paragraph or two, about the secret war in Laos. And even if they did mention some of the ethnic tribes that, were armed by the CIA, you're probably not going to find much about the Mien. I mean, they might mention the Hmong a little bit,
mhm.
but it's understandable though why you can't find too much because you have to look at it as the secret war as part of a larger war, which was the Cold War, between the United States, China, and the Soviet Union. So we were just such a small theater that's why a lot of historians, didn't really research it as much. Now they are, but back then there just wasn't much research going on.
Yeah, I mean, if we look back now in the time period, what 1970s? I think I was just talking about this like recently with a friend. Well, 1970s, that was like 30. That's over 50 years ago. 50 years
Yeah.
ago when the war happened.
Uh-huh.
It's kind of crazy when we look at it like that.
Mm-hmm.
And I was talking with my wife about this, but I think there are even like I don't know if it's this year or the next 2-3 years that there's going to be some 40-year-old first generation born in America Mian people. I think that's
Yeah,
really
yeah,
really interesting. Not to say
yeah.
there's
That's
nothing negative about that. That's just
mhm,
to say that that's how far we've come, to kind of like
mhm,
gauge. So, yeah, thought it was really interesting because I was trying to do the math, and I think I have a friend back home that he was born here, and he's one of the oldest people I
mhm,
know. His parents speak really good English, and like they're much older too, and they speak like perfect English and they
mhm.
speak perfect Mian. So it's kind of interesting how far we've come, and I
Yeah.
think we're still
Mm.
just scratching the surface. Wouldn't you say?
Oh, I was gonna say, yeah, yeah. Like me and most of the people that graduated high school around my time, most of us were like that first group that were born here. In the I was born in '80, but there was a large group that during the early '80s that are all
Mhm.
grown up now. They're all in like their late 30s, and so
Yeah, that's me. I'm in my 30s.
yeah.
So, so I have a couple more years before I get to there, but hopefully, we get much further too with the community and everyone else involved. Um, I was curious about your writing and going on this journey. I know right now that you just released an audio book, right? You have an audio book that you published on Iu Mien America. Tell
That
us
was
more
more
about
of
that.
a short story actually.
Oh,
So
short story. Okay.
um, yeah, so one of the things that I'm trying to do is get into fiction more, and so um, I wanted to practice a little bit. So I wrote a short story called The Elephant Hunter of Yunnan. So if
Yeah.
anybody's interested, you can actually find that on YouTube. It's an audiobook that I did with one of my coworkers who actually narrated that book. I mean, that short story.
So yeah, the elephant story. I like that one. I mean, I even like the sound. You guys put like a soundtrack over it too. So
Yeah,
it's
like
engaging for me.
I,
I was totally into it when I was listening.
I wanted to maybe possibly capture, what life was maybe like prior to Mien tribes moving into Laos. So that's when that story takes place. It actually takes place, right before the first tribes started settling into northern Laos. So there's a little bit of culture, a little bit of romance, maybe a little bit of comedy and action in that short story.
Yeah, it gets a little bit. There's a little horror part. So that's
Yeah,
a surprise.
yeah,
So more for adults um. But overall, it's a great story. And guys, look it up. Look up David Saechao on YouTube. You're gonna find that audiobook he did. So great piece there. I know that more people are starting to come out with more pieces too, other individual works. I know what
yeah.
the comic, right? There we have Sang. So
Mm-hmm.
shout out to Sang for creating the comic book series. I guess that's on Iu Mien America. I know he's looking to put that together into something
Mm-hmm.
bigger. So
Yeah, it looks like
I'm
it's
excited.
almost done too. So I'm looking forward to getting a copy of that, when it's done.
Yeah, I love his artwork that he does on it. It's really, really, really nice.
Mhm.
So that'll be really interesting to see it all come together. I'm curious, David. Being on this journey as a writer, I'm sure you come across a lot of challenges. What was that like, getting this information from the community? And, what are some of your advices for aspiring writers in the Mian community?
I would say like one thing you definitely want to do is to find sort of a system for writing. You want to be able to find a way to write consistently. I did that, by first creating this blog. I don't know if you read some of the stuff I wrote on my blog, but
Yeah, I did.
yeah, I wanted to find a way to write on things that I was interested in, and also share some of my writing, receive feedback, and then also the opportunity to revise what I had written. And so that system that I did allowed me to really become a better writer. I mean, I'm not that great of a writer, but during that time,
Oh, I like it.
those are like my formative years that I really
Mhm.
appreciate having gone through.
I think you even wrote an article. It was about Clonfen, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Clonfen, the history of
Um,
Clonfen and all that. Tell us about that
mhm.
article.
Yeah, I mean, when I first started that blog, I was thinking, okay, what would be something that I think Mint people would be interested in? And I never really knew that. I never really knew like where Kung Fin came from. I mean, I think most of us back then pretty much just thought that it's just Mien food. I mean, in my household, we had Kung Fin all the time, like just like many other Mien families. But I had a feeling that it wasn't really of Mien origin, So I went about asking people, doing a little bit of research online, and it worked out. A lot of people actually read that article, had a lot of feedback from that.
It's funny. Someone just posted a comment here. I can't see it, but this can you see that on the screen? No tie in suits.
Oh yeah, yeah. Yeah, I mean, I just got back from work not that long, so I just wanted to get comfortable.
You look comfortable. What are you wearing there?
What's
You
that?
got one of our sweaters, right?
Yeah, yeah. Oh, yeah. And of
Right
course,
there.
I got my Niners hat on. Shout out to the Niners this weekend.
It's gonna be an interesting game.
Yeah, yeah.
Oh man, talking about these things and these stories. I think more than anything else, what is something that you think you found helpful that most people wouldn't know about maybe you or the things that you're pursuing now, and maybe your vision for 2020.
Well, I think that I actually wrote an article on I don't know if you read that one about I think I titled it Do Min people really hate on other Min people,
Yes, I remember that
Um,
one.
I found that to be not true at all. I mean, when I set about writing from mountains to skyscrapers, um, everyone was open, like to just talking to me. I interviewed a lot of people, and I not once did I have one person say, "No, I don't want to talk to you about it." Everyone was really open. There were a couple people in particular that were really helpful. Dr. Tom Chow, in Oakland, he actually I think his last name is Dr. Tom Shichow. He doesn't have the AE, it's
Yeah,
S Chow.
that's Chow.
And then, yeah, and then also Dr. Cal Pan was really helpful in reviewing it, making sure that what I was writing was pretty accurate. So I think if you are interested in writing about Min history, Min culture, people are open to helping you. You just have to ask. A lot of times, just send a DM or a message, and so I found that to be really helpful because without those people that helped me, when I was writing that book, it wouldn't have been possible. And then, as far as vision for 2020, I'm currently working on a novel right now. I'll tell you a little bit about it, and not too much, but it's called Dragons and Libras, and it's a little bit of it's a little bit of a East meets West kind of novel, but for the most part, it's not really that. I mean, it does involve two main characters. One of them is, of course, a Mien male, a Mien guy, and then the other character is a white girl. You know, some of it is definitely based on my own personal experiences, but for the most part, it's like the main character Danny. He's not like me at all. You know, I wanted to write a character that was
Complete
definitely
opposite.
yeah. I mean, for example, he in the book he is a big headed man. You know, Gong Ho Mian. You know, like the
Uh-huh.
round. You know, and then
Yeah.
yeah, and I'm a Gong Papan people. You know, like the X's. You know,
Yeah.
so it's definitely not based on me, but you know, it's one of those novels that's going to be you know, definitely a romance, but it's also a comedy, um, and a lot about culture too. You know, in that book, I've always thought that, you know, a novel about Mien culture could succeed. You know, that's why I'm probably going to be submitting it to literary agents and seeing if I can find a company to publish it. I mean, I'm still not totally decided on that, but you know, we'll see how it goes.
Yeah, and if you need help getting the word out, we'd love to, help you promote that and get that out to the community. So,
Yeah,
whenever you want to share some more with that, with us, just let me know. I'm happy to, repost and reshare whatever you have.
yeah.
Um,
Thank you for that. Yeah.
Absolutely. Just talking about a lot of the like things that are coming out now in the community, I think. Oh, hey, welcome guys. We got a lot more people coming on out here. Someone else said gone ping, not gone, not gone pan. I was about to
Oh,
say
okay.
gone ping too.
Yeah. Actually, I think that's the right way to say it. Yeah.
Hello, Koi from Oakland. We have more folks joining us here. It's awesome. But I was just gonna say that ever since we started doing more publishing in the community, I noticed that there's like a trend. I think on average, all of our videos were getting about maybe 4 to 5,000 people, which is like I didn't know we had that many Min
Wow.
people on Facebook. Because you look at Iu Mien
Yeah.
America, I think it's in like
Awesome.
what I don't know 7,000 or something. So a lot of people are seeing our videos here, and we don't get a lot of comments, but a lot of people are watching. It's almost like for every one comment, it's 100 to 200 viewers, which is pretty crazy for our community size. And
Yeah,
when
that's awesome.
yeah, it is. It's amazing. I was just really surprised by that when I look at the stats. But I'm always looking like, well, how can we come up with more content so we can share with everyone else here? And I'm looking for ways to like, okay, who wants to know, right? So guys, if you guys ever
Mhm.
have any topics you want to suggest to us, things you want to know or ask, please just submit it to us. We have actually a page dedicated. It's called baongfamily.com/ask. If you go there, you can give us your topics, what you want to know. If it's something professional, you want to know about some sort of maybe advice, we can go through our networks and find that person. So if you're trying to get like maybe a career in some maybe nursing or be a doctor, right? We can go through our networks and find that person. And that's kind of like how I reached out to you, David, right? I think we
Yeah.
connected on that sense. I was like, who's a book author, right? Who's a Mien book author? And I ended up finding you through contacts, and then we ended up connecting this way. So I just thought it was really cool, and I hope that as we keep publishing more and sharing, that more people want to connect with us also and share. So that's the goal ultimately with Baong. And
Yeah.
this. Someone said, "Hello from Thailand." Wow, awesome! Hello from Thailand. Hello from America. Someone says AC is dying, but watching live couldn't get in. Okay. Well,
Yeah.
we appreciate you guys for hopping on here. Give us a like or, drop us an emoji. Let us know, that you're listening to us live. We always love to know, and tell us where you're from. Tell us where you're from at any time. So, David, we're really good on time, actually. Is there anything else you want to share with us, with the community? Things for maybe, anything else in particular?
I don't know. Was there anything else that maybe you wanted to talk about?
Um, yeah, I would talk about like tools. Is there any like anything particular, like a tool or something that you use along your journey that really helped you out that you can give
Yeah.
to like, maybe another writer or author?
Yeah, I mentioned the you know, taking a creative writing class and editing class. That's really important because I think even with the tools that we have today, like Grammarly, of course, you know, Microsoft Word has spell check and all that kind of stuff. Um, it doesn't quite catch everything, and so you do want to be able to practice as much as possible. And I always like to have other people read stuff that I write so that they can catch stuff that maybe I missed. And then currently there, one of the websites that I like to go to is called Daily Writing Tips. They have a free channel that you could go on, but the membership one includes lessons that you can complete every day. They actually send you a lesson every day. That's pretty cool too. I'm also part of the Writer's Den, which is a little bit more serious, as far as taking your writing to another level, because it's actually hosted by a few writers that have published books before and have worked for magazines and newspapers. So those two websites I definitely recommend: Daily Writing Tips and the Writer's Den.
Awesome.
But yeah, and then as far as the creative process, when it comes to writing, you definitely want to write in sort of a, how do you say it, like, you want sort of a melody to your writing, and rhythm. And that just takes practice. And it goes back to what I was saying, that like the only way to really kind of improve on that, and honestly, I still have a long way to go. But when you're writing, it's not so much as just putting stuff down. You're also writing it with rhythm. So, you always have to heed the fact that someone's going to be reading what you're writing, and you want them to be able to flow nicely. You want your writing to flow nicely when they're reading it. And so don't be afraid of, just doing like a quick rough draft. I keep on going back to that thing about how I was saying that sometimes you have to just sit down and just get in front of your laptop and start typing,
Yeah.
because no one's really going to read your rough draft. So I used to kind of worry about that, oh, this rough draft doesn't look good. I got to fix this or this, but you don't really have to worry about it. I mean, honestly, like when you're writing something, most people don't really care about your rough draft, like for example, my friends, sometimes I'll just kind of mess with them. I'll send them some stuff that I'm writing, for a rough draft. I know they don't really care. It doesn't mean that they don't care about my final draft and the final product. It's just that during the process, it's just you. That's why, writing is kind of a lonely activity. Most of the time you'll just be by yourself in a quiet room, writing. And then another thing, I know we're kind of already pushing like over 30 minutes here, but
No
another thing
problem.
is that, you really don't want to write for money, because I mean, Calvin and I have made, a little bit amount of money, from the children's book, and I've done okay with From Mountains to Skyscrapers. But really, you'll want to just find a passion for writing. I think if you focus too much on, whether or not it's going to sell, how you're going to market it, it's gonna impede your writing style. And the creativity. When you start putting stuff down. And so, just like a last tip, just write for the passion of it, because you're interested in particular topics. Nonfiction is probably one of the best ways to start writing, I think, because you can find like particular topics that you're interested in and write it and share it with other people.
Yeah, absolutely. I think you nailed it right there. Talking about passions, if you guys have a love for doing something, just get into doing it. Because eventually, when you love it enough and you share it enough, you'll find a way to make money out of it. So I think that's kind of like the key insight from that. There are some different ways actually how you can make money off your writing, but that kind of goes outside of this talk show, and I can probably
Mm-hmm.
talk about that. There's a style called like sales copywriting
Yeah.
in the marketing world, and that's writing in a way. It's persuasion. It's persuasion writing, and those are really very lucrative things. I have a friend that he does sales copywriting. He's not a writer by any background, but he kind of learned it from doing marketing, and
Mm-hmm.
those they pay out huge contracts. But that's something that we could talk about that on a different episode. Tony
Yeah.
here asked, "Hey Tony, how's it going, man?" He said, "Where can we buy your book?" So this book right here, guys, we actually have we worked something out with David, guys. This book here, The Legend of the Dog Warrior, is a children's book. We are actually, BAONG is buying these, guys. We're paying for the copies of all these. For everyone that placed an order with us at BAONGFamily.com, for anything you guys have ordered from us as a merchandise, everyone is going to get this book for free. We're going to send this out to you guys. All right. BAONG is going to pay for it. That's all going to be covered. For everyone else that makes new purchases on our store, BAONGFamily.com, to show support to the community. So it allows us to keep doing these and putting on these events. We're actually going to pay for the book also. We're going to buy the book. And all we do is ask for you to cover shipping. That's it, which is like $5. But that's going to be for all new orders coming out. Everyone else has placed an order up till today. You guys are going to get that book for free. For the other book, the other one that has more about our history and background, this one here, From Mountains to Skyscrapers. This one here, you guys can order from Amazon. So if you go to Amazon.com, type in David Saechao, you'll be able to find this book and his other books too.
Yeah, they're all three of them are on Amazon. I really encourage anybody that's interested in buying the From Mountains to Skyscrapers to get the ebook edition. That one, because sometimes you want to do reading on your phone or your tablet or something like that, and then the ebook is much cheaper too than the paperback. So yeah, pretty much you just have to type in David Saechao, and then you'll see those three books pop up.
All right, awesome. So that kind of concludes it for our show, guys. Thank you so much for tuning in. Here we're gonna show some love, BAONG. If you guys like what we do, please visit our website, show us some love, show us some support. David, you got a nice, comfortable sweater there. How's that feel, by the way?
Nice and warm. I wear it all the time, actually.
There you go. So you heard it from the man himself. Thank you so much, Dave, for joining us on the show. Thank you guys for tuning in. And until next week, we'll have a new show. All right.
All right. Go Niners.
Go Niners. Good night, guys.